Hello, my name is Phil Sexton. I'm the publisher of Writer's Digest, and in today's tutorial we're going to talk about query letters, and specifically query letters for books. They do differ a little bit from query letters for magazine articles, so we'll handle those in a separate tutorial. Today, however, we're going to cover the following: the definition of a query letter and why you need one. Now, this is very basic stuff. Most writers may know this already. We're going to cover it off very quickly, however, just in case any of you don't know what a query letter is. We're going to talk about the 5 pieces of information that all good queries should include and why they should include those pieces. Throughout, we're going to talk about how queries for fiction and nonfiction differ. And then we're also going to talk about what you shouldn't include in a query letter. So first off, what is a query letter? Now, a query letter is really your introduction to an editor or an agent. It is your first impression, and it is a letter that you send to try and convince them that you have a project that's going to be of interest to them, something that is going to enable them to make money. If they like what you've written, then they're going to ask to see more. They're going to ask to see either a book proposal, if it's nonfiction, or they may ask to see the full manuscript if it's fiction, or perhaps just the first 3 chapters, the first 50 pages. That varies by agent and editor as to how much they're going to want to see in a follow-up. So what's really important here is that you may have written a brilliant manuscript, a fantastic novel, but if you write a bad query letter, it's likely that no one will actually ever see it. Now let's talk about query letter length. Generally, you want to keep your query letter to about 1 page in length and no longer. And the reason why is that agents and editors are very busy people, probably more so now than they ever have been. And what they're looking for is a lot of information in a small space. If you can do that, then the odds are they'll read the entire letter. But there's a lot of information you're going to have to try and work into it, and so we're going to try and cover off what all of that is and how you can do so briefly. We're also going to talk about writer's guidelines. Before you send a query letter, one of the things you have to do is do your homework. You have to know who you're approaching and why you're approaching them. You don't want to send a query letter for a biography to an editor that only works with fiction. So how do you do that? Well, there are a lot of resources out there for you to get that sort of information so that you know exactly who you're approaching and what they're interested in. You can go online to do it, and you can look up individual agencies, you can look up individual publishing houses, and maybe you'll find that information. But that's very hit or miss, can be very difficult. And it's also not necessarily vetted unless it is the official site of the agent or the publishing house. You can also use some resources that Writer's Digest actually publishes, and most of these are available in any major bookstores or libraries, so you can always check them out at the library. One is called Writer's Market. There's Novel and Short Story Writers Market. There's Children's Writers Market. There's Guide to Literary Agents. All sorts of resources for you. In those books, you will be able to look up the right publishing house or the right agent for your work, find out what it is they're looking for, how to approach them, how quickly they'll respond, what their terms are in the case of a publishing house, how much they'll pay, and really the fine points of things that they're interested in. Now, what those entries will also tell you, as will a lot of the online web pages that you'll find for a particular agency or publishing house, they'll also tell you if they accept unsolicited manuscripts or queries. And what we mean by that is if they don't accept unsolicited manuscripts, it means that if they haven't asked you for something, then you might as well not send it, because they don't want to see something they haven't